Well, I think we'll go ahead and get started because we do have a packed agenda. But first of all, thank you everybody for joining. This is one in a series of Adobe forums, really to provide you with insights onto topics like AI to make sure that you stay ahead of the curve as leaders. And I think what's really interesting, I saw a training industry survey that was done just recently, and it found that only 47% of organizations are using AI in their L&D initiatives. Only 47. The other 53% are in a wait and see position. So the fact that you're here means that you're in that top group, the people that are going to be the leaders in AI in L&D. And we've assembled a panel here to really help guide you on some of the things you might need to do in 2025. But really, this is an open forum. So we're going to be doing Q&A, we're going to do polls. We want to make sure that you walk away from this session with the answers that you need or the insights that you hope to get. So we're going to start out, I'll just introduce the panel real quickly. We have Lauren Sullivan. She's the manager of IT training team and product owner at MathWorks. We have Lindsay Ernst. He is the learning platform leader for IBM. And then we also have Dr. Alan Partridge, who's the director of evangelism and digital learning solutions at Adobe. So we have a good panel here. Again, we're just going to jump in and we're going to start it. We really thought of about 6 different areas that we want to focus on, and we're going to dive right in. And so do we have that poll up, Priyanka?
Yes, we do. It's live right now.
Okay. And do we have anybody responding to that poll or?
Checking, just give me a minute.
Yep. Well, basically, we wanted to find out, just briefly, is what stage you're at, right? Where are you at? Are you just exploring AI right now? Are you running AI pilots? Have you already started to invest in some tools or some, technologies? Are you starting to scale? So, what level of maturity are you at? We just wanted to get a baseline for that, and then we'll dive right in.
David, I just thought I'd mention the poll appears in your chat, and there's a little button to allow you to vote in Slido.
Okay, good. So you guys can see that? Vote in Slido, do you see that? Okay, great. Excellent.
Okay. I see some folks are having an issue with Slido, so I'm going to launch another poll just so we can get everyone voting here.
Okay, we'll do that on the side, but I'm going to jump right in if that's okay, Priyanka, because we have a pretty packed agenda. But we wanted to start with the human element of AI and really wanted to find out what the issues are that companies are facing with AI. Now, obviously, there's the table stakes issues. People are fearful that technology is going to take their job away and some other things like that. But Lauren, I think you have an interesting point of view on what the human elements are.
Yeah, so at MathWorks, we are an engineering company, and I work in the IT department. So I always think we're really tech forward. We're people who naturally gravitate towards something new and shiny, and we want to play with it. So there's been a lot of discussion around the uncertainties and the anxieties that people have in terms of adoption of AI. We have had, I would say, a relatively unique set of anxieties being in the tech industry where we want to jump in, but sometimes we just don't know how or where. And especially with AI changing so frequently, legal needing to keep up with what questions to ask, how to validate, how our information is shared, all of that, it can sometimes be difficult to even implement or even try out a tool that we want to use that we think would further some of our business initiatives. So some of the uncertainty that we're navigating at MathWorks is really just around what to focus on. There's just so much out there. There's so much hype and sometimes a lot of noise, and it's kind of trying to translate through that and make sure that we're finding value for everyone.
That's a really good one. And Lindsay, from an IBM perspective, obviously IBM has been a leader in AI since the beginning. And you have the internal view and you have customers as well. So what's your point of view?
Yeah, I think that even though there's a lot of leadership going on in this space, there's still the human element, which is resistance to change. And I think that's pervasive. I mean, I hear that all the time, like that's not the way we've always done it, So, keeping people moving towards that curiosity and, we hear the buzzwords of the growth mindset, and that's important in the AI space. It's very important in the AI space to embrace the changes that are coming, to be inquisitive, curious, exploratory. I would also mention that there is, legitimate concerns about the trustworthiness of AI. And there have been, of course, we all see in the news, misuses of AI and deep fakes and things, but managing, corporate type risk around the legal side of AI, intellectual property side of AI, that's important for business as we move forward in this journey.
Alan, you
Yeah.
obviously talk to Adobe customers all the time. Is there anything that is a recurring theme when you're out on the road or you're talking to customers?
I think that there are a couple of variations. It's worth noting that both MathWorks and IBM are companies that are pretty mature in terms of their AI adoption. They've been in the game for quite a while. A lot of the customers who are coming from it with a kind of newer eye, there's more sort of concern about the base level fears, right? That we think of those as like, is AI going to replace me? That kind of stuff. But in most technology firms, that's not really the key consideration. It's more, how fast can I become an expert at this new technology, that kind of thing. Those are the popular concerns. But definitely we see more of broad customers who still have fundamental concerns about what are the implications for me. And then I can give you another example just from internally at Adobe. We have a broad range of personnel, many of which are engineers and who are technicians and so on, but also many of whom are doing everything from finance to HR to you name it. And so there are lots of concerns about adoption that are coming from all different angles. They relate to kind of what Lindsay said. People have early fears about, could I do that? Also, what both Lindsay and Lauren said, the legal has been primary. So the one big thing that I would note from Adobe is that the ethical, legal, etc., has been top of mind since our very first foray. We looked at things like generative AI and said, wow, this is a burgeoning industry, which is kind of being, I don't want to say reckless, but is being very nonchalant or very casual about legal obligations. And so what we thought was, given our alignment to corporate customers, we needed to be an initial gate that could reassure them that that they wouldn't have legal hurdles if they were embracing technology that we were supporting, by eliminating all of those legal hurdles to begin with, by ensuring that software tools, technology, etc., all of them had full license access to any information that was being used as part of it, all that kind of stuff. So I think definitely there is a kind of sliding scale here, and people's reactions are still sort of all over the board. But the one universal I will say, David, is that when I go out and speak just to sort of everybody, those customers are pretty universally starting with, I'm afraid, right? Mm-hmm. And then the what I'm afraid of are very broadly different.
Right. So fear of missing out is a big one, right? The other one is, hey, let's make sure that we do this the right way ethically. And then the other one is obviously the anxiety about, how's this going to change my job? But Lauren, so we get real solid solutions for people on the call right now. What are you doing about that? What can you do to communicate that? If people are saying, I'm overwhelmed, I don't even know what tool to choose, and there's a million things being thrown at me, how do you solve that problem?
We have started within IT, we have started with a fundamentals curriculum, and we have focused on literacy, not just around what tools are available and how do I use them, but also in understanding what's behind AI and why AI might give you wrong information, and how to judge if the output of an AI tool is something that really isn't good enough or is something that you can work with. I actually noticed a moment ago that someone put in the chat about the entertainment industry wanting to replace writers and artists. I have heard a lot about creative service people, especially being impacted by AI or having these fears around AI. And we've actually been trying to increase the trust with people in those in those roles to say, you are the expert in here. If AI can enhance your job, if it can make things a little bit easier, streamline your tasks, you still have an extremely important role in validating that the output of the AI tools is something we can use and deciding where we can fit those things in. So we've actually been trying to address a bit of the human component with the training that we're providing. In terms of enabling people to then say, hey, what tool might be useful for me, or where do I start? We are promoting the tools that we have available to everyone at MathWorks, and we do have some good resources on using those. We've also recently started meeting with point people from different teams across our organization to understand, what are the pain points in your day-to-day work? What do you wish you could automate? What is something that you're like, man, I really wish I could do this in half the time? And we found that those are often things that do have a use for AI, whether it's just streamlining writing or brainstorming or automating a small task with some sort of tool. That's been where we've been finding some really nice little quick wins and gaining some more of that trust and buy-in to what AI can do.
Interesting. And Lindsay, you mentioned, well, the bottom line is there's apathy. People don't like change. They don't like, what can you do about that?
Yeah.
I mean, is it communications or what is it?
Yeah, I think we found that getting people some hands-on experience, for example, the Watson Orchestrate product allows automation of repetitive tasks and recurring tasks and things that can be scheduled. And, if you think about the process of a contract going from inception all the way through to procurement and all those steps, there's a lot of steps that are repetitive there. And it's been actually quite freeing for people to see that, using some of the AI tools that are widely available today, it can actually free up the employee to then focus on the higher value, more complex tasks. And so I've seen it quickly allay fears with a realization that this can bring true value add to my day-to-day job of something I used to spend, a certain percent, say 20% of my time on some repetitive things that can be freed up to then focus on the higher value and then more engaging, more interesting tasks that cannot simply be orchestrated.
So like simple sandboxes. I mean, in the old days when we were teaching people how to use computers, we taught them to use solitaire because that's how they learned how to use the mouse.
Yeah.
And so, creating sandboxes or, getting them to really engage and participate, collaborate, right? Is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And then Alan, and maybe you cover this from an Adobe perspective. Adobe's very conscious of the legal considerations and the ethics and everything else, and everything down into how the products are developed. But what can people on this call do? What should they do to allay those fears?
I think that there are a couple of big things that can happen. We've seen that time and time again when leadership is actively participating or endorsing projects, then that gives people permission. So there's a lot to be said for simply giving people permission. It's a very primitive way to look at the world, but I often look at the world as gatekeepers and facilitators, right? And if you have nothing but gatekeepers between your personnel and AI, then they're likely not going to adopt very rapidly because they'll see it as, I could get in trouble. If you have heavy facilitators, you're going to have a much freer road. And wherever you can get leadership to endorse that facilitation versus that gatekeeping, you're much better off. So even if you have to risk having a bit of Wild West behavior, it's probably best to take an approach which seeks not to punish or chastise innovation, but rather one which seeks to help everybody align to common goals and helps people have good, deep understanding of why something might present a risk, right? If they understand why certain approaches might be risky, they're more likely to make intelligent choices. I mean, Justin Seeley said this to me the other day, that the reality is that we're working in a world where every day there are brand new tools. And not just in engineering, a technology, a creative, a learning field, but in every field, there are new ways to perform these kind of functions. And so everybody is now having to learn every day all of these new arrangements, all of these new methods, and so on. And so with that ever accelerating pace, people need to feel free to kind of explore, understand, But they also should have a structure like the one that Lauren mentioned, where they are getting a fundamental understanding of what the potential issues are and how they may need to adjust their day-to-day behavior to those potential issues, possibly even sharing information among one another about, oh, this new tool came out, but it's high risk from our XYZ standard. Or, oh, this new tool came out and it solves these previous problems that we were having. Maybe we should take a deeper dive into it, that kind of thing. I think all of those are a good, solid approach.
Yeah, I mean, just opening up a Slack channel might be a good idea for people, right, on all of this stuff. And I thought about it, and I read another article recently about reverse mentoring, and the idea, because all these tools are coming at us from every different angle, and it's hard for people to keep abreast of it. But people are coming in, rather than shutting them down and saying, no, we're only going to use these particular tools. Let them reverse mentor the people inside the organization. But you need some sort of communication channel to make that happen, right?
Yeah.
So excellent.
David, I see there are a number of cool questions coming in from the chat.
Yeah, you want to. So the meaningful ways you've seen leaders endorse or promote AI initiatives. So back from a leadership perspective, anything that you've seen, Lindsay or Lauren, at IBM or MathWorks.
Yeah, from an IBM perspective, from the very highest senior leadership position of saying we're going to have, quote, everyone involved in a Watson X rally or challenge of spending 2 to 3 days to get hands-on with the tools, where literally everyone in the company is encouraged to embrace the tools, try the tools, come up with practical use cases that address real customer needs. So that senior executive leadership and driving, and even having prizes and contests, make it fun, of like, here's some ways we can implement some some use cases for real world problems. We've seen that be very effective.
Donna mentions both hallucination and search inaccuracy. I know, Lindsay, that you mentioned some of those things as it relates to a later question we have around technology. I also noticed that Ingrid mentioned something about, do folks have recommendations for adoption across departments? And I know, Lauren, you've mentioned focus groups and other similar approaches. Adobe's chosen the same. I don't want to delay you, David. I just want to encourage folks to write.
No, it's something we have to think about, right? It's what are the channels to, because this is a time to really think about your communication strategy, because it really has to be open. And that's why I said, is if you have something like Slack, or you have some sort of communities in your group, or even something like Google Docs or something else, where people can start to share and start to put down, here are the ideas, here's what I'm doing. There was a case that, this is a little bit aside now, I'll move quickly, but when communities started coming out, we had a big client when I was working at IBM, at Lowe's, and they were having a big problem with their washing machines being returned. They were coming back damaged all the time. Well, guess what? Somebody found out that it was the way they were packaged. All you needed to do before the washing machine left the store was cut a couple straps on the bottom of the machine, and then there was no problems with it. They put that into a community. Everybody shared it across the entire Lowe's environment. It saved them an enormous amount of money. And I'm thinking that you guys can do the same thing with AI, saving time and saving money, and reducing frustration by opening up some sort of community strategy, whether it's Slack or something else. So I think we're all on board on that. You need some sort of way for people to collaborate and to be able to sandbox these things. I'm going to move forward because there's some great things here. People talking about, AI being their assistant, and it's kind of like a drunken intern. It wants to do the right thing, but it's not always accurate. But want to move back to the business impact and what we think the business impacts are for L&D right now. What are the 3 or 4 biggest impacts that L&D can solve from a business perspective? And then also, let's combine with this, because we're moving quickly here. What type of innovations and transformative solutions you're coming up to make that happen? So Lauren, if it's okay, I'll start with you.
Sure. So within L&D, we have been focusing a lot on streamlining our own workflows that basically enables business impact by letting us deliver things more quickly. So we have a variety of tools at our disposal that can generate audio to include in video tracks. And if you need to update an audio script or an audio recording, you simply update the text on the tool and it regenerates your audio. So that saves us a ton of production time in video content. anything audio related can just go out the door probably about 50% faster. We have a community of practice that you mentioned a moment ago. We have a learning and development community of practice across our entire company, and anyone from any learning and development team, or even just with an interest in learning and development, can attend. And we have really good idea sharing there. So we have been sharing what's worked for us, even with tools that aren't meant to be learning and development specific. So something like ChatGPT. We have our own internal versions so that we can use PII and our own information in there without any worry. It's not connected to the external internet. And we have been sharing ideas of, hey, can I upload the transcript from a live training I delivered and have it generate a summary, generate a one-pager, take this image, evaluate it, and create something that indicates what's going on in this screenshot. So we've just been sort of considering our business impact to be the speed and the efficiency with which we can deliver something that has been cut down in terms of process.
And you measure it, obviously. I mean, that's the key, I think, for L&D.
Mm-hmm.
L&D has its own set of, key performance indicators, but the C-suite wants to see, are we going to save money, make money, save time, reduce our attrition?
Yes.
What are those kind of things? So you're down to the level, though, of saying, we know that we can save X amount of time. This is what it used to take, and this is what it's going to take now.
Yes.
And I think that's what we justify these expenses, right?
Yes. And you actually mentioned earlier, someone in the chat mentioned earlier, like, how do you have your leadership enable AI exploration, or how do you promote it? Our CEO at our quarterly company meetings, has a small highlight that he calls waste reduction. And he actually highlighted that script audio tool that I just mentioned a moment ago. He highlighted that as learning and development, cutting 50% of their video production time by using this tool. And it was both an example of AI usage, exploring features, and waste reduction for our company. So we kind of got the double promotion there.
Lindsay, what's your point of view on that?
Yeah, we've really been focused in 4 areas. One is personalized learning recommendations. And when someone comes into our learning platform, we already know a lot of things about you as a learner just by the fact that you logged in, and we know all of your demographics. So being able to recommend things intelligently that are for people like you, and plus our learners are able to, fill out brief, areas of interest, and combining that with things that are rating well, rating high, coming up with those smarter personalized learning recommendations has been a big win for us. Also, feedback classification. We have course owners, for example, that may have 100 different courses, each with hundreds or thousands of different comments or feedback about their course, because we deal in such large volumes that it's just impossible for a human to correlate and assess and assimilate all of that feedback and determine, where do I need to focus? What course is giving people some trouble that needs to be tuned, and being able to rapidly surface that to the course owners and make sense out of all of the thousands of possible comments and feedback, which are actionable. And then 2 areas that partner well together is what we call automated tagging and cognitive search results. And so this is to solve a needle in the haystack problem. For example, I want to find agile training that's relevant to my development needs. And there may be 10,000 hits in our search catalog on things with agile in it. So finding the right agile training for you, that is a problem that we've solved through what we call automated tagging of the content, and having a cognitive or intelligent search results, so that things sort to the top that are most relevant for you.
So, and Alan, from Adobe perspective, when you look on the customers, let's just go back to the innovation things. What are the 2 or 3 things that people seem to be galvanizing around as, hey, these are the 3 things that we want AI to solve? Is it the personalization? Is it adaptive learning? Is it the content creation? Or did I just answer that? Right?
Yes, all of the above. I think the one fortunate thing for Adobe is that we're uniquely positioned to be able to handle the aggregate of most all of these requests. So, we're actively implementing automatic learning path generation, automatic course creation, course content development. But these other elements like advanced tagging models, the ability to restrict your searches to specific internal information as opposed to going external, but still have the functionality of kind of text-based search. I think a lot of people are looking at Socratic interactions and the power of those Socratic interactions for developing chat-based learning is a very powerful one. All of the personalization, I think, has become hygiene at this point. So it's just customers expect all the personalization. But as Lindsay mentioned, it's great that it's hygiene. But if you look at, for example, a simple search in most modern tools, they're limited. So Adobe is handling this in a couple of interesting ways. One, developing specific features that are relevant to that audience in that tool. But also, if you go to firefly.adobe.com, you'll find that Firefly has become this sort of intelligence hub for all different kinds of technologies related to AI, both generative AI and other broader AI solutions. And on an almost weekly basis, you're seeing new technologies. For example, just last week, Firefly introduced an automatic video converter. So if you do a talking head video and you say it in English, you can put that video through the converter and it will automatically translate you into one of 12 or 15 languages with your voice, your face, and your lip sync. But now you're speaking Hindi and you're speaking German and you're speaking French or whatever you want it to be. So it's a rapidly evolving landscape. And the way Adobe builds those tools, they are then aggregatable across the broader set of Adobe tools. Make sense?
That's an interesting one. I love that one because that one is absolutely something that you take to the C-suite and you say, look how much time and money we have saved and how we've opened doors to new markets by doing all this translation, all this localization. Excellent. I did want to, Daryl had a question back, and I just want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to answer this, or somebody gets a chance to answer this, but he wanted to know back to, he says, what I would like to do, fear the doubt of AI and create a series of art of the possible, maybe videos, tools. What do you guys recommend for that? How do you start to do that? How do you start to show people the art of the possible? Would you recommend that you have a newsletter? Is it a communication from the executive team that says, here are the interesting technologies that are coming out? Lindsay, I'm going to ask you that one question particularly because I know that IBM has done a lot with jam sessions and things like that to get tools off the ground internally. So could you maybe respond to that? Maybe it's a jam session idea or something.
Yeah, and just bringing forward those ideas in like a crowdsourcing kind of way of like, and having people vote on their favorite ideas, and then surfacing that up to executive sponsors who actually have some purse strings to put some money towards the art of the possible of like, hey, we want to take this into a prototyping or take it to the next level beyond just a cool idea, right? So getting those executive sponsors involved that can carve off either some time or some resource, some money to put towards those, winning ideas.
Sounds a lot of people already do have some communities going on here. So Priyanka, we're going to open up for a live question. And the live question is for everybody that's out there. How are you currently using or planning to use AI in your learning programs? Are you piloting things right now? Are you using it for content creation? Are you using it for data analytics? Obviously, the data that we're getting from this thing really is meaningful and valuable. Or what else are you guys doing?
And I think, David, they can just you can raise your hand.
Yeah, raise your hand and
grab the mic, and Priyanka will assign you a mic.
Yeah. So Anita already responded.
You can enter it in the text too. I'm seeing contests work great for generating ideas, all of the above, content creation and marketing.
I'm going to call on people if their mics are open. Let's start with Donna. Is her mic open?
Yes, Donna's mic, you've been unmuted. You just have to unmute yourself on your end, Donna.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, no, I'm really sorry more of my coworkers aren't here because this is exactly what we're doing is we're starting out and looking at stuff, and our company just started doing translations. We're working with a big engineering firm in Germany called Beckla, and our we do software, CAD software training. And so yeah, I'm like I said, really sorry more people aren't on here because it would answer a lot of the questions that we've been asking about how to incorporate AI. I know we've tried some voiceover, but I'm old and I have friends that are voice actors, and so I'm not thrilled with some of them getting replaced because that's their job. But yes, I can.
Well, you know what? They need to manage the machine, though, Donna. I mean, that's the answer, right? If they set up a system that makes this very, very easy using some of the tools that Alan mentioned to be able to say, I'll put the whole thing together. You just give me your request. I'll put it together and I'll have it on your desk in 48 hours.
Yeah, well, there already is a group too, especially in the entertainment industry, is they're trying to treat it like royalties. So it's like you can use my voice, but if you use it in something, I get I get a piece of that.
Perfect.
Which,
Yeah. Residuals.
I think that is a really, really good solution.
Yeah, it
Like I
probably
said,
solves the
especially in the
legal.
entertainment industry. But oh yeah, off topic, please, Adobe, bring back authorware. I really, 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 really miss it.
Okay. Hey, so I'm going to move quickly because so Patrick, I'm going to go to you
Yes.
next if that's okay. And you're on mute if you can unmute yourself.
Yep.
There you
Hello.
go.
Hi. Yeah. Thanks. Hey, everybody. So yeah, my name's Pat. Work at basically we're a tech company. We're like Uber for property maintenance. It's called Lesson. That's an end-to-end enabled service provider. And our L&D team, we create content for all of our clients, all of our affiliate vendors, as well as all of our internal employees. Right. So huge, massive scope. And we are a small and mighty team, as L&D teams typically are. We've noticed that demand for our content to help, promote our SaaS products is increasing, frankly, exponentially, and we are struggling to keep up with that. So we are constantly on the lookout for new tools. We started using AI voiceover, was kind of our first foray back in 2022. Saved us about 12% production, like immediately, right? But then you factor in how much is that going to enable us to keep things evergreen, keep things updated. And so from there, we just kind of said, you know what? This is where things are going. We either get on this train or we miss it. So we jumped on the train, and we are now using AI also to help streamline some of those like more boring parts of the content creation process, right? Script writing. Well, can we throw something in an AI, maybe not a chat GPT since there's proprietary questions there, but can we throw something in some sort of AI tool that will give us a draft script? Then we can go and we can redline it, we can clean it up. Now, instead of spending 3 days writing 3 pages, we can spend 3 days writing 30 pages because a lot of the legwork is done up front, and we're able to spend more of our energy doing true instructional design rather than like content creation or video editing, things like that. So I just think there's an incredible amount of opportunity. And again, it's just like the invention of the typewriter, the laptop computer. It's happening. So we either get on the train, in my opinion, or we're gonna miss it. Thank you so much for putting this together, by the way.
And Patrick, it sounds like you're really also are thinking about the metrics that matter to executives. How much time can we save? How much more content can we put out there? What's the impact going to be to the business? Rather than what L&D typically has done is look at some of the performance metrics in L&D, but this is really tied to how do we grow the company?
Right. I mean, we see L&D as no longer just a cost center like it was before. Yeah. We see L&D as a potential revenue generator, certainly cost saver. But we also think that AI is a way to help us meet the bottom line. And that's the thing about it, David, is you've got to speak in terms that executives will understand. You can't go to them and talk about needs analysis, ADDIE, project.
No, they don't care about the training metrics. They just they don't have time for it. They assume that that's table stakes, right?
Exactly.
Daryl. By the way, Daryl wins the contest for the best background.
Oh, thank you. Just pick the stock one from the library. Thank you, David. I'm in the sales enablement side of L&D, and what's most exciting and what I'm really excited to start to put out there is, we're all used to using AI to review a corporate pitch, for example. You submit your pitch, you get some feedback, fine. A few years ago, there was a company called Second Nature. They're probably still out there. And I remember we had to create a coaching program on how a manager would coach a high performing or a low performing rep. We had to have dozens of people train this AI, and it was just a clunky experience. Today, last week, I was at an event and saw the new release from a sales enablement platform company, an L&D platform, and it's a live, engaging role play between yourself and that AI. The AI is the role, the buyer that you would want them to be. So in enablement, it's all about building confidence and preparedness. They go out there and have the right conversation with the right person at the right time. And now you can, with a very minor prompt, a simple prompt, Alan is the CTO at a tech company who's interested in, AI, but he's a bit combative. So now engage in a conversation with Alan, and now I can prepare that rep to go out there and be ready for a potential, difficult phone call, for example. So there's some things there now with role play that is so far advanced from just a year ago that to me, that's really exciting. You can get all these at-bats to go out there and get that right conversation at the right time. So that's what I'm looking forward to right now in the L&D space.
That's really interesting about sales training perspective. I know that when I was on the road and I'd go to different cultures, we had a database that told you some things, but it was really minor stuff. Like if you go to Asia, make sure that when somebody hands you your business card, make sure you use your two hands to look at it, so to show a little bit of respect. But you're going way beyond that to handle objections, which is really important, and they could be culturally different as well. Right. So now you have the opportunity to do that. I see Miki responded in the chat over there that she said that she's a former voiceover talent. And she's saying, yes, that was my role. But now my role is to ensure that the scripts we upload sound more natural. So that's really interesting, Miki. You're basically saying, you know what, the tools are here. The water is flowing. What am I going to do? I'm going to go with that flow, and I'm going to make a new career out of it, which is phenomenal. Okay. Anybody else before we move on? Okay. So, back to the challenges, I think we started with, the challenges for L&D leaders adopting AI strategies. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Lauren. One of the things that I think that, and Lindsay, we talked about was, where do you start? Back to the business objectives. A lot of people seem to start with the tools, and I think that's why they get overwhelmed, because there's a million tools out there. So, Lauren, what's your thought on that? I mean, how do you start this? I mean, you start with the business problem?
Yeah, I know we were talking about this in preparation for today, and I think it was you, David, who was like, "Oh, Lauren, your idea of starting big," and I was like, "Did I say that?" So I guess I implied it in saying what we do. So one of the challenges I mentioned earlier was our legal approval process. There's a lot of stuff moving quickly there. Sometimes the questions that we're asking our vendors change even as we're negotiating with them. But another issue that we're having at our company is the backlog of requests for approval to use AI tools is so large right now. Just people are chomping at the bit to get access to AI tools and start using them. The backlog is so large that legal is currently only prioritizing requests to use AI tools that can be used enterprise-wide. So they're not even going to bother with looking at a tool that might help 20 L&D staff streamline a piece of their work. The exception there is if we're already using something, so Adobe Learning Manager, for example, we're implementing it right now. We will be able to look at AI tools there because we use the main tool enterprise-wide. But that's been challenging because you might have a use case for AI in your workflow, but if it doesn't apply to the majority of the company, you're sort of got your hands tied there with using it. So we actually are thinking big when we look at AI. We are trying to figure out sort of both ways. In one way, what's the tool and how can we use it to solve business problems, or based on what we know about how this tool is used, can it solve business problems? And then the other way is, what business problems do we have? What are the biggest ones, the most critical, the ones that affect the most people? Then you look at the market to see what AI tools might be available there. So we're approaching it in both of the ways that you asked about.
Excellent. Lindsay, what's your thought on that? Like, the
Yeah,
challenge is adopting it. Is the people part of it? What is it?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of in agreement with some of the things that have already been shared. I don't know if I have any additional thoughts at this moment.
One thing you said, Lindsay, the other day was you used the term accelerator to describe the
Yes.
relationship between AI and the teams or personnel that are using it. And I thought that was like a switch moment for me. You burned it into my brain. Accelerator. That's a better way to describe what we expect out of these tools. So that's one thing that definitely resonates for me. This idea that it can become an accelerating factor. I do agree, David, that fundamentally you want to start with theory, business process, those kinds of things on the high end, because you ultimately want to know what your goal is before you start charging toward it. And the landscape of tools are often not designed in a way to be open to your architecture. I feel like this about it. We just broke through this huge hurdle in the world of learning architecture where we could say, design for yourself the learning programs, culture, architecture that you want. And finally started working with customers who are actually like doing that, who are saying, this is the world I need, and it needs to totally fit my imagined vision of what learning programs and initiatives should look like. I would hate to see us like now suddenly switch back to the old model, which was more like, tell me all of the features of your system and I'll decide if it fits my vision. Well, that mechanism was always hampering people from actually achieving the best results with their learners. So I think starting with an understanding of what your goal is, that's key, because the systems are heavily configurable. There's no reason why you can't start with your goal, your vision, your ideas, and then the tools should either conform to your needs or don't use those tools. Yeah.
Well, I like what Patrick said. They started with a business problem. How do we get this out in all these different languages to all these different countries? Right? What's the big problem? So that's one, is obviously right. Starting with what are the business problems we want to solve? But also a question for you, and then maybe we can even open this up, Priyanka, to everybody. But what about the data? I mean, AI needs good, clean fuel, good, clean data. Do you think that in your organization that you have that data? And what are you doing about that? So that's another one, right? Let me think of a couple of others real quick, and then we can open it up. But so I think that what we just talked about, right, was that whole vision and where we're going to go with that. The bottlenecks about doing all of this stuff because you can't do it all at once. What about the integration with HR tools? Because I think L&D struggles with that as well, right? There's all this incredible good data on HR. There's good data that's out in the field, it may be in the business units, but does L&D have access to all that information? Are there data silos? Is that creating problems, especially when it comes to the whole data intelligence side of AI? So I think that those, yeah.
Oh, I was just going to throw in, I know there are a couple of ways that we're actively addressing these problems. One of them is that more Socratic chat style interface. In other words, right now today, we think of it as there are a fixed set of charts that we can configure and have ready for us to then go through and pour through the data. And in the end, most companies end up like with Excel spreadsheets and mounds of data and data analysts trying to pound through and see what it says. The not distant future at all looks more like being able to pen a query in an interactive chat kind of experience and have the AI based on the data that's specific to your organization that includes cross-populated data. It's coming from more than one system. Solve that question for you. Answer the question, but using human language as opposed to looking for a specific chart or graph that's already conceived. Let the AI actually produce the information you need in whatever graph or chart makes sense for that data.
So, back to what Miki said about, she was a voiceover, talent. She was an artist, and now she's moved into managing that process. All of these different processes require different skills and different tools. And Lindsay, you had said earlier before we got on the call that at IBM, you know what? L&D is going to have to start to either borrow other capabilities from the rest of the organization or build them or bring them into the organization, in particular around data science and data analytics. Maybe you can talk to that. And I'd love to know what everybody else is thinking, because there are new skill sets that are needed. What are these new skill sets that are needed in L&D?
Yeah, the data science and machine language and those that are deep into the math of it to be able to make sense out of the data lakes of, like you mentioned, we brought together our HR databases and our learning databases so we have a common repository to be able to, mine all of that great data that we have. But it's way beyond, a learning content developers, skill set to be able to get into the data science side of it. So we actually have brought in data scientists to augment our learning team accordingly.
Lauren, any other type of skills? I mean, obviously data is a big one. Is there anything else that you can think about top of mind, or?
In terms of how we would pivot to?
Yeah, no, what kind of skills are needed now in the era of AI for L&D to make sure that they keep themselves elevated and they elevate themselves even further? Data analytics is a big one. Is there anything else that you can think of? I mean, there's project management in a different way, probably.
Yeah, I actually was thinking change management. My team
OCM.
more and more these days, I'm in the middle of writing a business case for more change management, and I used AI to do it. So look at me. But we are seeing like half of our workload these days is change management. So we have training and we have resource centers and we have all sorts of things people can reference to learn about our IT topics. But where we really need to make an impact is kind of coaching others, coaching project sponsors and the senior executive level of people to enable a change, to do what we were just talking about with AI, to promote it, to encourage people, to explain the why and help people figure out what's going to be valuable about these changes to them. So we've been trying to upskill on that. I'm actually working really closely with our project management team on trying to bring more change management into projects. And I'm in the process of figuring out how AI can enable that for us too. Like we're looking into creating an agentic AI to be able to coach a project sponsor through considering what is this change, how will it impact people, how might I set up activities or meetings and work with others to enable success in my change. So it's been very top of mind for us.
Excellent. Priyanka, let's open up the question, if we could, to the audience, because I'd love to know what, because we want to answer that question before we get off this call. What are the biggest challenges that you're finding adopting AI strategies in your organization? And based on the poll, a good percentage of people are already pretty far along with this. I mean, we looked at the numbers here. Scaling across departments, 47%, which is better than I thought it would be. I don't know if you guys thought. So can we open up the poll or the questions to the audience? Open up the mics. And love to hear from you guys. Raise your hand and we'll call on you, because love to know exactly. I want to make sure that you leave here having this panel help you answer some of these questions about the challenges you have and if there's recommendations that they have. So I'll give you guys a minute. And don't be shy. Okay, Patrick.
Thanks, David. I think, there's a lot of challenges in terms of, we don't know what we don't know. But ultimately it all boils down to one word. And I think that word is fear, and it's understandable, right? It's scary. I don't know how AI works. I'm not a programmer, but I also don't know how my laptop works, and I use it all the time. I recognize and I'm empathetic to the fear, and it took me a while, right? I've seen the movie The Matrix, but it is it's truly valuable. And I think if you can find the courage to kind of step into that void, you'll realize that it really isn't all that scary. It's just very new. And the really, really good news for our industry is when people are trying to learn about something new, guess who they're going to turn to? Us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's excellent. Okay, anybody else? So we have a thing. So Priyanka put something in the chat there. If you want to put your answers in there or your questions in there, go ahead and do that. And then we're going to move on to the next question we had was about the integration. So back to the AI integration in your organization. What are the starting points, Lauren, that to say, if you're going to start on something like this, or in the case of the 47% that are already moving forward, right? Where do you go now with this?
Yeah, so I actually was one of the people that responded that we are doing it, kind of integrating with departments and all of that. So we have a few, I mentioned we have a community of practice for learning and development. We actually, within IT, we have a community of practice for AI. And then there is a separate sort of working group that represents people from across our business areas, all business areas at MathWorks, that have been meeting monthly to just say, hey, what are you doing? And it's a strategic meeting. It's higher level project management. There are some learning and development staff in there as well. But it's really just to say, what are you doing in your department that's working? What are you trying to promote? Sharing ideas. We actually recently launched a collaborative resource center. So we each had started out with our own resource center, like IT, AI resource center. We just launched a MathWorks Worldwide resource center for AI, and all of us contribute to it. And we share ideas back and forth with what works, what's been promoted over here, and what sorts of tools and things might be scalable across our groups. So as an example of a specific tool, there is a coding assistant that's been very successful in our development organization. We just started scaling that into IT. So people who code within IT are now able to use this tool that's been successful in one business area, now moving it over to the other. So just keeping in touch and sharing ideas that way, bubbling up success stories has been helpful too, to just kind of let other people contribute, even if they're not at the management level.
Interesting, the idea of having a marketplace of some of these different tools, because then they've already kind of been vetted for the organization. People already know,
Yes.
and then they can kind of narrow down that, the 10 new tools that come out every day, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, that's been helpful.
Yeah. Lindsay, anything else on that point for you?
Yeah, we've been really strong and out in the forefront on the, I'll say, the learning experience platform, the LXP side of the AI tools. But where I feel like we're behind or could use some acceleration is on the instructional design side and the acceleration that Alan was mentioning. And so actually we are really highly interested in some of the Captivate 13.0, 13.1 features that'll be coming to help us to kind of bridge some of those gaps where we're strong on the platform side, but we want to grow in our acceleration on the content side.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I was just at a meeting last night. I think I'm allowed to say summer, but it's really exciting. The idea to have all of those generative AI tools essentially from Firefly and related tools integrated, and to have the ability to create courses on the fly, to rapidly modify anything. It's been thought of in the same way that if you're in Photoshop, you can use the AI tools to augment and accelerate your process. It's the same basic kind of paradigm that's coming into Captivate. So we're super excited. And of course, we just finished the AI voices, so that's already in the product live.
Fantastic. We have another live question, and the live question for everybody in the audience is, what's your top priority? Based on what we've been talking about right now, what is your top priority for your L&D teams going forward? Is it increasing AI literacy? Is it, because that's the fear part of it, right? Is it any kind of upskilling with prompt engineering? Is it mapping AI to your business KPIs? Is it creating that, test and learn culture, or securing executive backup? We can open up the mics, and I'd love to see, I'm going to put this in the chat anyway, but some ideas to prompt you guys. If you have something you'd like to contribute, we'd love to hear it. So Priyanka, I don't know if we can open up the mics for everybody.
See if we have any hands.
Thank you, Ingrid.
Thanks, Ingrid.
So she wants to know about the ROI. That's the big one for her, right? Is what's the return on investment need to get, which is really important. Lindsay, you had mentioned that even at IBM, right? You have to have a business case before you can do these things.
Right.
Yeah.
I think one of the, not even just AI, but in general, when my team has tried to prove ROI, one of our most difficult things is proving the current state. How do you measure your current efficiency? So we've been trying to do that, to just think about what measurables could we calculate with an AI implementation. Is it speed? Is it number of hours spent on something? Is it cognitive load, if you can measure that in some way? And we've been focusing on get measurement of the current state. Implement your tool, make sure you know what you're measuring when you implement and try it out, and then you can fall back on your metrics that way.
I think Swati has an answer for you, Dave.
Yeah, Swati, if you can unmute and. Well, while we're waiting for Swati, if she's trying to unmute on hers, but while we're waiting for Swati, as soon as you unmute, we will get your answer. But any other open-ended questions, anything that you want to ask of the panel right now? I want to make sure that you walk away with what you need. So just put up your hand and let's answer them. Let's do some rapid fire for the next 2 or 3 minutes. What do you need from this audience?
Especially if there are things that you came hoping to learn, but you didn't learn today, things that are problems for you, but you haven't heard others discuss. We're very curious about all of those kind of things. No luck for Swati, but she's going to type.
This is Daryl.
The L&D audience is shy, right?
Yeah, I'll just jump in. It did surprise me, but it kind of maybe reaffirms in my mind a little bit that no one's really that far ahead of anyone else. We're all still kind of right in the middle of it, right in the thick of it. Like, I don't think we're too late or too far behind. Everyone's kind of still in that discovery trial. Let's try it out. Let's get some wins. So to me, I feel like I'm not missing the whole ball game just yet. We're all in the same spot.
We've been prepping with David for this call far more than we would typically prep for a panel session like this. So we've actually met about 5 times. We've had huge conversations, and I think we all came away with the conclusion that we had about 5 hours worth of content. So I just have a question for the group. Would you like us to continue doing these kinds of sessions, but going deeper and deeper in? We mentioned how determining your AI maturity might be something that would be interesting to people, figuring out exactly how to align your goals and priorities, digging in on things like Lauren mentioned, where how do you find your baseline? Are these the kinds of sessions that you'd like to have?
So Daryl says use cases. I want to get back to Swati's thing here as well. So she said for us, the biggest strategic priority has been linking L&D with the talent planning. We are seeing a larger shift toward a skills-based talent marketplace. So skills-based talent transformations, right? How does this fit in with that? And I think how it fits in, frankly, is the data. So if you're able to, first of all, create an assessment strategy that's solid, that you can get down to the nano or micro level on the capability somebody has, map that against a skills taxonomy you have in your organization. Now you can use AI and you can use other tools to analyze it to say, where are the gaps, who fits the closest? So I think that's a really good one, Swati, is that. But you really have to start with the good, clean data. You have to form an assessment strategy in your organization to capture that information, because it's not going to be just what somebody did yesterday. You have to know what they can do in the future, because the jobs are changing so quickly. And unfortunately, we look at this historical labor market data or the job history data. That's not going to make a difference. You have to find more than that. I think we're almost out of time, Alan. I don't know if you can just give people an idea of where they can go next.
Absolutely. First, thank you all so much for coming. We appreciate all of your ideas. It's absolutely phenomenal to gather a group of leadership like this. The insights we all gain are tremendous. I wanted to mention elearning.adobe.com is our community. It's an extensive community of nearly 500,000 people who are in and related to the field. And we've broken out a section of that specifically focuses on learning architecture. We try to be very much in the forefront of thought leadership across the industry. So I encourage you to follow myself or Justin Seeley or Adobe eLearning on LinkedIn, where you'll find that we're constantly doing summaries and articles and all of that kind of thing. And I hope that you'll join us on elearning.adobe.com. And don't hesitate to reach out to myself on LinkedIn. I'm Dr. Partridge Allen, or my colleague Justin Seeley, who is Justin Seeley. And we love that. I know Dwidge has an upcoming project where folks will be invited to come to short consultations with us if you want to just talk about what's going on with your tool. I have the weirdest job at Adobe, which allows me to just have conversations with customers and listen. I don't have to sell anybody anything. So I hope that you'll not be strangers.
And you know, same for me. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I don't know if Lauren and Lindsay, if you're on LinkedIn, if people can connect with you there. Connect with us, chat with us. We'll get you the answers that you need. We want to make sure that you are the leaders in L&D with AI. So we'll do everything we can to make that happen for you. And really, truly thank you for spending an hour with us. It went pretty fast. Thank you so much.